Caitlin Clark has already been having one of the greatest rookie seasons in league history, but what her and the Fever have been able to do since the Olympic break has actually been incredible. Her completely dismantling the Chicago Sky in their home arena has got to be one of the craziest rookie performances I've ever seen. Not only did she have a career high in points, she did it while throwing out 12 assists in a blowout win. It's not very often you see a player getting a standing ovation by an opposing team's crowd after hyping them up. The Indiana Fever take the saying every game is a home game to a whole nother level. Caitlin looked like peak Iowa Caitlin. They had the Sky so frustrated that half the fourth quarter was just Caitlin shooting free throws after being fouled over and over again. It's actually funny, 17% of all flagrant fouls in the WNBA have been committed against Caitlin Clark, and 80% of the 17 have come from the Chicago Sky. Take that however you want. She became the first player in WNBA history to score 30+ points while having 12+ assists. She did that, had the first rookie triple-double, and broke the single-game assist record just 3/4 into her very first season. We're no longer talking about Rookie of the Year, we're talking about where she'll come in the MVP race. A'ja Wilson is obviously going to win it. She could score 0 points for the rest of the season and still win. That's already been cemented. But I'm just curious to see where she places after A'ja, because she is without a doubt having one of the best seasons this year. Caitlin's been so good since her college days that people don't even realize the difficulty of what she's been able to do as just a rookie. I mean, let's take a look at this chart that compares Caitlin's senior season to every Division I basketball player in the entire country. The further you are on the right, the more points you've scored, and the higher you are means the more assists you've had. As you pull away from the massive crowd, you start to see players like Juju Watkins, Zach Edey, and Paige Beckers. But then there's Caitlin Clark, completely alone, playing a whole different game than everybody else. In the WNBA, she's broken almost every scoring and playmaking record at this point, and the season isn't even over. Just look at some of these stat lines. This is not normal. Caitlin is already the face and engine of one of the hottest teams in the league. Ever since the Olympic break, they've had a record of 5 wins to just 1 loss, and even leading up to the break, they started to look like a much better team. She also just won Player of the Week for how good she's been playing. They started the season with a record of 1-8, but after their win against the Sky, they finally made it back to 500, which on the surface doesn't seem very impressive. But knowing they played their first 11 games in like 20 days against some of the best teams in the league, it starts to make more sense. The Fever are currently sitting at the 6th seed and are essentially guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. Allow me to remind you that the last time the Fever even made the playoffs was in 2016. Barack Obama was the president of the United States the last time they made the playoffs. Kelsey Mitchell is in her 7th season with the Indiana Fever, and she's never played in a single playoff game. It's even worse because there's only 12 teams in the league. You just have to be a top 8 team to make the playoffs, and the Fever still haven't been able to get there. Since their last playoff appearance, they've had a record of 58 wins and 174 losses, not including this season. They've been the worst franchise in the league for a long time. There's a reason they were able to draft Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark with the #1 overall pick in back-to-back drafts. So the fact that a rookie has been able to come in and lead this team to the playoffs is actually incredible. Whether you're a fan of her or not, you have to respect that. She's currently averaging 18 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 8 assists a game. Caitlin is basically tied in points per game with Kelsey Mitchell, but also leads the Fever in assists and steals per game. Plus, she's 3rd in rebounds and blocks. And at the rate she's going, those numbers are probably only going to get better as the season finishes up. Her numbers are just as good or better than some of these all-time great WNBA guards. It's crazy to think at the beginning of the year, Christy Sides had her just sitting in a corner for several possessions in a row. A lot of the casual fans said Caitlin was adjusting to the WNBA at the beginning of the season, which she definitely was, but also it was the Fever adjusting to Caitlin. A lot of people, even WNBA players, said all she can do is shoot threes. And since then, she's become one of, if not the best passer in the league while adding a floater and mid-range shot to her offensive game. She's still definitely taking deep threes though, which not only makes her harder to guard, but it also creates way more spacing and driving lanes for her teammates. Yes, she still turns the ball over a lot, but she's also a rookie, and I much rather her take chances than be too scared to make certain passes. That will improve over time. She's currently accounting for 36.7 points per game. That's the most in league history. I know people love to look at points and think that's the end-all be-all, but no, assists are extremely important as well. It's the same reason people think LeBron isn't a good scorer, because he averages a ton of assists. Caitlin could easily up her points per game a lot if she stopped passing the ball as much, but that's not what the team needs, and that's not what great players do. But she's not the only one on the Fever taking over the WNBA. Honestly, the entire team is. Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston were both all-stars this year for a reason. Kelsey started the season with the ball in her hands a lot more. She was rotating as a guard, initiating the offense. But once Caitlin took over the playmaking and Kelsey got to focus on being a pure scorer, they've looked so much better. They're probably the best backcourt in the league right now. Kelsey's always there to create something out of nothing, and her and Caitlin run that same backdoor action like 5 times a game, and it always works. Then for Aaliyah, it's the same thing. Her and Caitlin know exactly what they want from each other. Their pick and rolls are one of the biggest keys to their offense, and the mid-range shot she started taking off the roll has made her that much more dangerous. Then there's Lexi Hall, who has been by far the biggest spark plug on the team. Lexi was literally not even playing to start the season and is now in the starting lineup. Whenever she's on the floor, they just look so much better as a team. She's constantly hustling on defense and is shooting like 10 million% from 3 since the Olympic break. It's actually unreal. She has the perfect 3-and-D build to be playing alongside Caitlin and Kelsey. Nalissa Smith has had her ups and downs throughout the season, but when she's knocking down her threes and giving full effort on defense, she looks really good. If they can get her back into the role she had when the season first started, then she will be even better. Katie Lou Samuelson will always be there to knock down threes, and although Erica Wheeler's role has gotten smaller, she's still a really solid backup veteran guard. I even have to shout out Damiris Dantas, who the Fever picked up once Fagbenle went out with an injury. She has actually made a big impact, and her ability to stretch the floor can't go unnoticed. Then for Fagbenle, she's been one of the best players on the team when it comes to transition offense, and I'm glad she's back because she helps the Fever in a ton of different ways. People were questioning this roster at the beginning of the season, but as time has gone on, they've actually fit together extremely well. You can have a ton of all-star players, but if they don't all fit together, then it means nothing. Their chemistry has gotten so much better, and because their entire team really can shoot, when they're all making their shots, they look like the prime Golden State Warriors. They can get very hot very quickly, and they're not a team that people want to face in the playoffs. But like I said in my last video about Caitlin I made earlier in the season, on top of everything she does on the court, she's also extremely humble and never gets too high or too low. I think that's a huge reason why she has the fan base that she has, and it makes those moments where she's hyping up the crowd even better. Instead of bad-mouthing ESPN for all the clickbait stuff they say about her, she completely ignores it or just says she doesn't care. Caitlin, like everybody else, knows ESPN is desperate for clicks, and even when certain former WNBA players want to talk, or maybe I should say not talk about her, it doesn't even faze her. This is the worst version of Caitlin Clark we're ever going to see in the WNBA, and she knows that too. Caitlin and the Fever are only getting better, and come playoff time, we'll see just how good they really are when everything is on the line. But let me know down in the comments what you think about Caitlin Clark's season so far, and please leave a like on the video to support the channel. Also subscribe if you're new for more basketball videos just like this one.